Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror TV series season review video as part of my current series. So today we're going to take a look at season two of the early '70s TV series Night Gallery. Season one review's up on my channel. It feels like I put that review up a month ago because I almost did. Um, yeah, I was incognito for about 10 days, so I didn't do anything with my channel or watching Night Gallery or anything as I was on vacation at a lake. So that's why there's about a 3 week gap here between season one and season two. That and the fact that season two is quite a bit longer. Season one had 7 episodes and 17 segments. Season two has 22 episodes and 62 segments. So you can see there was a lot more required watching involved before I could do this review video. So yeah, season two of Night Gallery. Let's just go ahead and get into it. I'll give you my least favorite episode or least favorite segments, I should say, from the season, as well as my top favorite segments from the season, just like I did for season one. Now, season one, I did my top five and then bottom three. Because there's so many more episodes and segments in season two, I'm going to actually do a top 15 favorites, and just a bottom three least favorite, top 15 favorite segments. Which really does speak to the quality of this show. I'm really impressed with the first two seasons of Night Gallery here. Having never seen them before, I can safely say that the writing of this show, the performances, even the practical effects when they're used, everything's really top notch in my opinion on this show. At least through the first two seasons. I know there's a season three to go yet. But yeah, I was just going to do a top 10, and I realized there's just too many segments that I really liked and enjoyed in this season of Night Gallery that I had to up it to a top 15, and even with that, there's two honorable mentions included as well. So 17 segments that I'll be mentioning as favorites, and then just about only three least favorite segments, including a dishonorable mention. And I'll say even those segments aren't like awful, like where I wouldn't watch them again, which really does speak to the quality of this show. So, yeah, that being said, as I said, summarizing season two of Night Gallery, you have 22 episodes, 62 segments, and then there's two unaired segments from in syndication that they weren't aired as part of the regular series the first time around. They were only aired later in syndication, and I did watch those two as well. Um, that makes up the other two because if you look at the whole series, I think there's 46 episodes and 96 segments. 98 segments with the two unaired segments that are included in season two. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get into it. Starting with my bottom three, or the three segments that I found the least enjoyable or hit the least well for me anyway. Starting with the dishonorable mention, that's gonna be the segment entitled "The Academy" from early in the season. Yeah, this was just kind of a forgettable episode. When I read the premise of it about a widowed father who was checking out this academy school for his son, I thought it had a lot more promise than it actually delivered on. It was just kind of forgettable and not that great. But as I said, with all of these, it wasn't like awful, where I wouldn't give it a rewatch. But my dishonorable mention is the Academy. Getting into my bottom three episodes, number three is going to be the Toon and Dan's Cafe. This was a weird episode. It had a lot of weird, trippy animation and like just cutaway scenes and things going on. There's just a lot happening in this episode that really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It really didn't. It really didn't hit the mark for me. I think I understood what they were trying to do. I just don't think it was that well of a directed episode, and it just really didn't hit home. This was kind of in the middle of the season. The Toon and Dan's Cafe. That's going to be my third least favorite from season two of Night Gallery. My second least favorite from season two is going to be a segment entitled Brenda. This was a really weird segment about a young girl who's just weird to begin with, and she's on this island or this something, and she ends up stumbling upon this creature, this mud creature or something that she traps into a pit, and they form some kind of weird relationship. And yeah, it felt very on Night Gallery to me compared to all the other segments this season and in this series so far. It really just didn't feel like it fit, and I wasn't overly impressed with the little girl in the episode, and I guess the effects of the mud creature, whatever it was, were okay. But I just didn't really understand the point of this episode. It just really stood out like a sore thumb, and not in a good way. And then my least favorite segment, and I forget what episodes these are in. I didn't write down the particular episodes, but it's a segment entitled "The Fear of Spiders," which was pretty early on in season 2. Yeah, this one I really didn't enjoy at all. It was just kind of. It's about the characters are so unlikable in this episode. They try to make this guy who's kind of like I think he's like a critic or something, and just really kind of a jerk. But the problem is, I'm not sympathetic to the other character, this woman, either, who was just kind of annoying. And frankly, I could understand why he didn't want to have anything to do with her. And then he gets his comeuppance at the end. But like I said, it really didn't. It just didn't sit well with me because nobody's likable in this episode. And I also don't think the pacing's that good in this. I keep saying, if I say episodes, I mean segments. You have to know that about this series. That's the one thing I really don't like about Night Gallery compared to like the Twilight Zone or even Tales from the Dark Side. Um, because I'm so used to saying episodes, and in this you can't really say episodes here because these have episodes that might have 3 or 4 different segments in it, or it might just have 2 segments in it. So that's one thing I'm not crazy about Night Gallery. But yeah, Fear of Spiders. That was my least favorite segment from season 2 of Night Gallery. Okay, on to bigger and better things. Now we're going to get into my top 15. And like I said, I could have done a top 20. I could have done a top 25. I mean, the segments are really high quality of season 2 here, but I held it to a top 15 with 2 honorable mentions that I'm going to mention first. So my first honorable mentions a segment entitled "Dead Weight." This had Jack Elberson in it. It was from later in the season, kind of a shorter segment. I think it's like 10 or 15 minutes long. But it was a long enough segment to include it here. As you know, if you watch season 1, I'm not including like the really short segments. Like there's a couple segments about a creature on an elevator that's literally like 30 seconds long, if that. And I'm not including those because I just kind of feel like those are more filler for these episodes that were 60 minutes long in the first 2 seasons. But Deadweight was an episode that had a really nice twist to it, and I love Jack Albertson. He was a really great actor that I enjoyed from the early 70s. This is an episode about he's basically an exporter that helps out like these gangsters that are in trouble, but not in the way that you think. At the end of the same, I just really enjoyed the twist, and I enjoyed his performance in it. So yeah, Deadweight I had to include an honorable mention, and also Camera Obscura is another segment I had to include. This has I forget his first name is Renee or Rennie. I forget his last name. He was in the show Benson, if you're familiar with that. He's really good in this segment, but it's really what captured this segment is sort of like the dreamlike sequences and the camera work and the just the look of this segment is really good. It's also very creepy. I thought it had really good atmosphere. Good performance by the other main character in this episode. Yeah, Camera Obscura is definitely one you want to check out, and that's my other honorable mention of my favorite segments from season 2. Now we'll get into the meat and potatoes, my top 15. I'm not going to say too much about these segments. I'm just going to give you the title and give you a little bit of synopsis. For one, I don't want to give too much away, and for two, this episode would be like an hour long. So just check. These are my recommendations to check out, though, if you have Night Gallery season 2 or the entire series, as I do. So number 15, I have Please Keep in Touch. We'll think of something. That's the name of the segment. And this is an episode about or a segment about a guy who basically not hires the police, but gets the police involved about. He basically tells them a fib about this woman that he stumbles across in an accident, and then he ends up meeting a woman that really resembles who he's sort of been seeing in this particular dream. Well, it ends up being a dream. He's telling the cops that it's real life, basically because they just want them to sketch this particular woman so he can find her. And it's just got a really nice twist to it. And it doesn't hurt that the actress, who's actually an actress that was in a season one episode entitled The House, which is one of my favorite. I forget her name. Let me, because she's going to be mentioned again here. So let me look it up quick here. As I feel like I should know her name. She's just flat out beautiful. Man, if I lived during that time, I would, Joanna Pettit. That's who it is. She was in The House. She was in this episode. Please keep in touch. We'll think of something. She's going to be in another episode or another segment again. God, I'm going to keep doing that for the rest of this series. Another segment that I'm going to be mentioning here shortly. But she's really good in the episode as well as the main character. It's just got a really good twist. I really enjoyed this episode. Good pacing. So that's my number 15. Number 14 is a segment entitled Since Aunt Ida Came to Stay. This has James Ferrantino in it, he's the reason that this segment stands out in the top 15. He's just such a good actor. This is one where he suspects that his aunt is his wife's, um, I guess it's her aunt. It's not her mother; it's her aunt. Is a witch. He suspects that, but the episode really unfolds well. It's a 30-minute episode, maybe even more. It has a lot of good backstory, a lot of just good information that's given, so that when we get the hit towards the end or the twist, if you will, it really works. That along with his performance. So since Aunt Ida Came to Stay, number 14. Number 13 is kind of a weird episode early in the. Number 13 is a really weird segment, not episode, from early in the season entitled The Hand of Borgus Reams. This is just a really unique segment about this guy's hand that kind of goes ape shit on him and starts doing its own thing. And it's another one that has really good writing, a really good story, really good performances. And has a really good twist at the end as to why this is happening. Really enjoyed it. Had good pacing once again. I will say my number 6 through 15 here are really interchangeable. Only my top 5 that I'm going to give you here, top 5 segments for season 2 I would say, are locked in that I'm really comfortable with. As far as 15 through 6, you could throw these in a bag and mix them up. I love all of these segments. But yeah, that's my number 13. Number 12 is Deliveries in the Rear. That's the name of the segment. This is from later in the season. And even though it kind of has a predictable twist that I kind of saw coming like 5 minutes into the episode, so the performances once again and the writing are just what bring these segments home. I mean, it's really good, really creepy, just the premise of the segment. And it's got a very horrifying end. As I said, even though it's somewhat predictable. Number 11 is entitled The Waiting Room, which is also from later in season 2. This kind of takes place in the Old West about this guy that stumbles into a bar, and it kind of unfolds where he gets to know these other characters that are in the bar, but he actually knows more about him than he originally thought when he stumbles in. It's just got a really good twist again, very Twilight Zone-esque, if you will. But yeah, The Waiting Room, definitely check that one out. Now getting into my top 10, the number 10 is The Different Ones. This definitely is very Twilight Zone-esque as well. This is about a guy that's kind of got a deformity, and his dad has to make a decision on what he's going to do with him, because it's kind of a futuristic society where, again, it harbors on some certain episodes from the Twilight Zone, the original series, but um, his deformities aren't really accepted in this society, which it has so much staying power. It's as much relevant now as it was then and even before. So The Different Ones. Number 9, You Can't Get Help Like That Anymore, which is a very late season 2 segment. Again, very Twilight Zone-esque, as a lot of these are for obvious reasons, but this is it's kind of a futuristic one again, where robots are used as like the help, if you will, and this one has just an awesome twist that really had at the end that really had to make me put this on the list. I really enjoyed the twist. It was one of the best twists of the whole season, in my opinion, and the performances are good. The writing is what you're going to constantly hear me coming back to, though. This might even be a better written show than The Twilight Zone, and that's about as high praise as I can give. But the writing, so good. Number 8 is entitled The Funeral. This is just sort of a fun segment, a very sort of Monster Squad-esque kind of segment. just very tongue in cheek about a guy who's more than he appears as a guy who comes to this funeral parlor and um, wants to set up his own funeral, basically, which the funeral director thinks is kind of weird. And he tells him there's going to be he wants a service. There's going to be about 10 of his friends there. And as you can guess, they're not regular people. That's as much as I want to give away. But there's a lot of good humor in it. There's some really good practical effects, good makeup effects. Definitely check out The Funeral as more of a lighthearted, fun segment. Number 7 is, I think, second to the last segment in the last episode of season 2, and that's entitled The Caterpillar. This is a really well performed episode with really good writing, and again, it has my gal in it. That gal that I talked about from the Please Keep in Touch. We'll think of something. Now I can't think of her first. Joanna Pettit. That's it. I'm glad I thought of it. She's in this episode looking awesome as always. It's basically about this guy that he's basically on contract to stay with these well-to-do couple, and he kind of has a big crush on her. And you can't really blame him. The wife, who's married to this much older gentleman, and he basically runs into this other creepy guy that gives him the idea to try to make his dreams come true, where maybe she'll slide with him if some demise comes to her husband. And it has a really good twist, and it's just really well acted, a really good twist. Very creepy, good atmosphere in the end. There's a lot of rain happening, very good atmosphere in this segment. So the caterpillar in the last episode from the season, I think it's the first segment in the last episode. That's my number 7. Check it out. Pickman's Model is my number 6 favorite segment. This is a really good sort of horror segment about this young woman. I think she's like a reporter or a journalist, and she stumbles upon this guy. She's basically obsessed. He's an artist, I think, and yeah, a lot more than meets the eye there. It's just a very well written, well acted segment once again. And I really need to pick this up because this video is 17 minutes now. Class of 99 would be my 5th favorite segment. This is an early season segment that, again, has a lot of relevance to today, has a great twist that I didn't see coming, and it has Vincent Price in it as a professor, in case you needed more reason to check it out. It's basically about this professor that's giving a final exam to the class. Again, has an awesome twist that I didn't see coming. Very interesting exam indeed. Number 4, Midnight Never Ends. That's my 4th favorite segment for season 2. This has a very dreamlike, but it's not a dream, segment where this woman feels like she's repeating the beats of what's happening. She picks up this hitchhiker. They go to this closed down, or not closed down, but closed diner or bar or something where it's after hours, and they stumble on this guy, and they all realize they've done this before, kind of thing. And it has a really good twist that's might not be what you think. That's Midnight Never Ends. My top 3, Death in the Family is my number 3. This one, I love this segment. It's again about a funeral parlor and a young guy that's on the run, ran into some trouble, and this funeral director is really creepy. Probably one of the creepiest endings to any segment, but it has a lot of color, has a lot of great practical effects, and just fun. Tongue-in-cheek as well in this segment. Number 2, A Question of Fear. This is with Leslie Nielsen. This was in strong contention to be my number 1. This 1 and 2 could be interchanged. I'm a big haunted house guy, as you know, and Leslie Nielsen's challenged for a sum of money to go stay in this haunted house overnight. And there's a lot of good atmosphere here, just a lot of good creepy moments, and he does a great job, Leslie Nielsen, as well as the other main protagonist or character in this segment. It's a longer segment of the season, like the 25, 30 minutes. And of course, again, it has an awesome twist that I didn't see coming. Very enjoyable, though. My number 1, though, I'm going to go with The Ghost of Sorworth Place, in part because it has Richard Kiley in it again, who is in one of the pilot segments, and that was one of my favorites from season 1. He's really good here, but I really like the atmosphere and the haunted. This isn't really so much a haunted house, but it's about Richard Kiley's like an American traveler that comes to, I forget the country he's in, but it's overseas, and he comes upon this big house because he's lost, and he stumbles on this woman. who's also not is pretty easy on the eyes as well. I forget the actress's name, but yeah, it just kind of unfolds from there, and she comes to protect this woman who she tells him is being haunted by her late husband's ghost. And to say I love the twist at the end of this segment, it's probably my favorite twist so far in this whole series. That's why I had to put the Ghost of Sorworth Place um, as my number one. But like I said, A Question of Fear could have been there as well. Um, but yeah, this got really long. We're over 20 minutes here, so I'm going to have to end this. What can I say? In case you can't tell, I love season two of Night Gallery even more than season one, which I loved. I'm anxious to check out the final season of this series, which is season three. But yeah, definitely check out those top 15, including the honorable mentions of Night Gallery if you can. Just awesome. And even the ones I didn't mention, you should check out. This whole series is just fucking fantastic. So, at least the first two seasons. I haven't watched season three yet. That season video will be coming down in the next 5 days or so. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this season review of Night Gallery video. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos for this series. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my great horror content coming up the rest of 2022. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day, but stay scared. Bye.